Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for you all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the Two Hot Takes subreddit. It was posted by artsandcraftyperson on June 14th, 2026, and was titled, "Am I the jerk for not wanting to let a neighbor's kid into my house to do arts and crafts?" All names are fake. I, 21, often babysit my cousins, 10 female, 7 female, 5 male, with my mom. While they are at our house, I make worksheet packets for them, and we do arts and crafts. They love it, and so do I. A few weeks ago, my neighbor Sandra, 30s female, saw us doing projects in my backyard and asked if her kids, 10 male, 7 female, could join. I agreed. Soon after, another neighbor asked if her son, 8 male, could join too. The kids get along well, and it became a routine that whenever my cousins came over, the neighborhood kids did too. However, my mom tells the parents to send their kids over without telling me first. This is frustrating and sometimes leaves me short on supplies, but we usually make it work. This leads to the current issue. 2 weeks ago, the kids were over making things out of air-dry clay. Another neighbor, Melanie, 30 female, asked my mom if her son, Henry, 8 male, could join, explaining that the neighborhood kids don't really play with him. Not wanting to be rude, my mom welcomed him without informing me. Henry immediately caused issues, pushing kids, hogging clay, and screaming when he didn't get his way. Wow, I wonder why no kids play with him. After we told him several times to wait because the clay was drying, he ran upstairs into my bedroom, noticed my iPad, and started playing on it. When my mom tried to take it away, Henry threw it on the ground, cracking the screen, and threw a massive tantrum on my bed. Enraged at this point, I packed up the supplies, sent the neighborhood kids home, and sent my cousins inside to watch TV. My mom was angry because she started getting upset texts from the parents. I told her Melanie owed me money for the screen, but my mom told me to just let it go and that she'll repair it. The next day, I went to Melanie's house to ask for the repair money. Instead of apologizing, she got defensive and said she owed me nothing and slammed the door in my face. To avoid more neighborhood drama, I decided to just pay for the repair myself. Yesterday, my cousins were over for an overnight stay. My mom invited the neighborhood kids over for paper mache making, except for Henry. Melanie found out somehow and came over and demanded he be let in with the other kids. My mom was at the store at the time, and I told Melanie no, explaining I couldn't handle Henry. She immediately got defensive and asked me what I meant by that. I just kept repeating, "No, I can't," and shut the door. Melanie waited outside until my mom got back from the store, and when she returned, Melanie started screaming at her. My mom brought Henry inside anyway and told me to just deal with it. I put my foot down and told her that if Henry stayed, I was putting all the supplies away. The other kids overheard and started to get upset. Ultimately, my mom took Henry back to Melanie's. Now, Melanie is bashing us on Facebook for excluding her son. Because of this, the other two mothers are no longer letting their kids come over. I feel terrible for taking that away from them, but I simply cannot handle Henry in my house. Am I the jerk? Scaling Stories Corner. Nah. OP is being too nice because the moment this lady comes to my door and starts demanding that her child be let in with the other kids, I'm telling her she's out of her goddamn mind and to pay up for what her son broke last time. And then I'll remind her that, remember when I went to your door and told you about how he broke my iPad and you slammed the door in my face? Your child can't be here because he can't interact with the other children nicely. And it's your fault as the parent because I can see clearly where he gets it from. To Henry's defense, he's 8 and it's not really his fault for being raised wrong. But it doesn't matter how he was raised or how he came to be because he's currently a menace to the other children and makes it not safe for them to be around him. So he can't be invited into the house. And OP's mom, on the other hand, is a completely separate problem here. Because what in the hell are you doing inviting all these kids and not even telling OP ahead of time? Like, I can understand if you love children and it's happy fun and happy times and everything when the kids are all around, but OP is a single person with you, and there's a limit to how many kids you can effectively watch together. The fact that Henry is able to free roam the house and use OP's iPad is enough evidence that there's too many kids for them to watch. So not informing the other person that is also babysitting the kids with you that more kids are being invited is an obvious no-no. And also the fact that OP's mom invited Henry back in after all the trouble he caused, and OP not even getting any money for her iPad, makes me think she's like a super doormat and super people pleaser. And in regards for the other kids not coming over now because their moms aren't letting them, like, I kind of don't care. Like, ultimately, I don't have any emotional attachment to any of these other kids if I'm OP, so I only care about my 3 biological cousins. That would be my main concern. They would still be babysat under me with the arts and crafts and stuffs. And, if any of their kids or their friends want to join, then they're free to do so. But you know what? If the other kids' moms don't want to let them in because excluding Henry is somehow wrong, then okay, what's your point? Don't invite your kids over then. We're still going to do arts and crafts on our own, Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "Not the jerk. You should post this on Facebook. Are the other parents aware of how awful this child is?" OP says, "I assume so. About a year ago, he attended another child's birthday party in the neighborhood and pushed the birthday girl's cake onto the floor." Commenter 2 says, "Your mother is the biggest jerk. Each time, she invites extra kids over to hand over to you. I'd pack your stuff up and leave the house. Your mother can babysit the neighbor's kids. I'd also charge the other mothers for supplies and babysitting. You're seriously undervaluing yourself here." Commenter 3 says, "Agree. Your mom needs to be backing you up here. Start charging the extra kids babysitting fees. Invite them ahead of time and tell the parents the cost and time frame. We're doing XYZ from this time to this time, and supplies cost this much. Here's my Venmo if your child wants to participate with us. There are enough supplies for this many kiddos." This kind of thing often happens in neighborhoods with kids around, and it's completely fair to not allow non-family member participation or set your own boundaries another way. Charge reasonable babysitting fees or at least material fees, in this case, or put a number limit on the kids you can host. Your mom is not allowing you to set boundaries, and that isn't right. You're not a daycare or kids camp, and if you were, you'd be getting paid. OP says, "It honestly never occurred to me that I was being used for free babysitting for the neighborhood. I just thought I was being nice. I'm definitely going to have a talk with my mom tonight." Commenter 4 says, "You said your mother just invites these kids over for arts and crafts. Does she help you with babysitting, or does she leave you to the wolves?" OP says, "I normally handle all the childcare while she's either in her room lying down, watching TV, or making food in the kitchen." Commenter 5 says, "If the rest of the neighbors are agreeing with Melanie, then let them have Henry over and deal with him. I would tell your mother that she needs to be honest with Melanie next time she asks. Henry doesn't play well with the other kids. If she won't, then your mother needs to be the one to watch and entertain the kids. Then I would find a reason to be out of the house every time they are over." OP says, "My mom doesn't like Henry. He destroyed her plants last Halloween because he didn't get the candy he wanted. But for some reason, she allowed him to come over. I think it's because she wants to be viewed as the neighborhood grandma." OP says to another commenter, "I didn't mention this in the post, but we had one more girl named Sarah with us. She ended up leaving our group when she found out Henry was coming over. She wanted me to call her mom and tell her Henry was coming, and so I did, and her mom came and picked her up. Her mom was nice. She often gave me some art supplies she had lying around. Around a year ago, Henry pushed her birthday cake onto the floor, and I think he might have stolen one of her presents too. I'm not 100% positive about the present stealing, but he definitely smashed the cake onto the floor. None of the kids like Henry, but all the moms are friends with Melanie except Sarah's mom, who thinks Melanie is entitled, and I honestly agree." Update 1 month later. After posting here, I finally got the proper advice I needed and decided to have a sit-down conversation with my mom the following night. Some of you in the comments brought up things I wouldn't even have thought of in my wildest dreams, but I decided to ask my mom anyway. I asked my mom why she expects me to be a free babysitter for the neighborhood, especially when I'm not getting paid. Her response was along the lines of, "You should just do it because you aren't even paying rent." My second issue was with the blatant disrespect of my boundaries, to which she stated that this was her house. I then asked her why she won't push Melanie to pay for my iPad and why she let her continuously disrespect us, even going so far as to post about me on Facebook. She told me she just doesn't want any issues with the neighbors and that I need to let it go. I finally asked her if the other mothers were paying her to have me babysit their kids. She got extremely defensive, and after some pressing, she eventually admitted they had given her $20 to $30 for art supplies. She had never informed me of this and never actually bought any supplies with it. This is when I lost it. I screamed at her about how I was taking care of multiple kids at a time, on top of feeding them and doing household chores, while she lay in bed all day or watched tennis on TV. My mom screamed back that I don't pay rent, can't keep a job, and am just slumming it in her house for free. I ended up packing a bag and texted my friend to see if I could stay over for the night, and she agreed. The next morning, I asked if I could stay a little longer, but she declined and said I would need to pay rent if I wanted to stay. When I went back home, my mom and I had another argument. I told her I'm not doing anything else for her, and if she wants me out of the house, she'll have to formally evict me. The fighting continued until she eventually went out, and I went to my room. Once everything calmed down the following day, I decided to message Melanie directly because I still had a major issue with her Facebook post. I told her that I felt completely disrespected by it and that it ruined the fun for the other kids, especially since I had tried to accommodate her son in the past, only for him to break my iPad without her taking any accountability. I told her I expected her to pay for the repairs, and if she didn't, I would take her to small claims court. She read the message but never responded. A few days later, I went over to Sarah's mom's house to give her back the art supplies her kid had left behind. I explained the whole situation involving Melanie and my mom. To my surprise, Sarah's mom told me that if I needed money, she would be happy to hire me as a regular paid babysitter for Sarah. I happily agreed. Unfortunately, things with my mom are still tense, but if I save up, eventually I'll be able to move in with my friend. Thank you guys for all the great advice. I truly appreciate it. I'll go over to Melanie's house again, and if anything else happens, I'll update, but I think that's the end of this situation. I don't want to, but I'll probably have to let it go with her because I just don't have the money for small claims court. Again, thanks to everyone who sent me advice and made me realize I was being used. I truly appreciate it. Scaling Stories Corner. Nani? The mom isn't even helping with the babysitting, but she's inviting all these random kids so OP can solo watch on her own? That is some next level wrong behavior. And initially, by the way, before I didn't really account for the cost of babysitting because I was just assuming that if I was OP, right? I'm imagining like I'm OP. I was doing this for a family out of my goodwill, like assuming I love my cousins. But of course, it makes sense to get some type of payment for this since it's a service. And my mentality was when like more kids started getting added into the fold for like one or two kids, like I was thinking, oh, like it's nice that like my cousins get to play with friends and also make friends. So I just wasn't really in the mindset of getting paid for it. But it definitely makes sense to get paid for babysitting because that's what it is. Just wanted to make that clear. But ultimately, for OP in this situation, her goodwill was being abused by her mother, who harbors a dislike toward her daughter for I don't even know what. Like, oh, you don't pay rent and you live in my house? What is even that argument? Like, you're the mom that chose to have a child. Like, what's your point? I feel bad that OP is in this situation right now, but at least she has a job as a regular babysitter for Sarah, and maybe she can eventually get a stable job and save up and like move out. And you'd best believe that after all that crap, I'd be going no contact with mom unless she apologizes. Like truly, sincerely apologizes for the things she did and said to me. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, babysitting will not make you enough money to move out and support yourself. Get a real job, and if you want to babysit, do it on the side. Commenter 2 says, why don't you just get a job, save, and move out? You're an adult. You need to get the hell away from your mother. She used you for your own gain. She essentially pimped you out. Do not give up on Melanie. If she can make posts, then so can you. Exposing her for her blatant disrespect and allowing her kid to break your personal property and not taking any responsibility for it. Warn people against babysitting for her. Commenter 3 says, you left when your friends started expecting rent? OP, get a job. OP says, because I didn't have enough for the rent she was asking, I had to pay if I wanted to stay longer, and I didn't have that, so I left. Commenter 4 says, "Why would your mom say you can't keep a job? I think we're missing some context." Commenter 5 says, "Formally evict you? Go get a job and move out. You can't just live for free at your parents'. They will just see you as a dependent and expect you to do things because you're living there for free." Yo, I don't really do post-comment thoughts much really, but literally OP was getting flamed so hard in the comments for not having a job, and there's like a billion other similar comments, but these were just the ones at the top and a comment that OP replied to. But I did not think that poorly of her when I was reading the initial post and the update post. But I think like obviously OP should know that babysitting a single child isn't going to get her enough income to get a place on her own. So she'll of course have to look for something else when she has free time. And her mom was so wrong for what she did and said to her. And like it's also just like not so easy just like for someone to just up and get a job out of nowhere, right? Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. It was posted by techandthecity on June 14th, 2026, and was titled, "Am I the Jerk Requiring Brother-in-Law's Family to Vacate the Primary Bedroom When My Family Visits Our Vacation House?" My 36 female parents and I own a property in a Tier 1 Asian city that has been in our family for 3 generations now. My parents were considering selling it a while back, but I bought them out. Though I paid lower than market price, my parents were happy with the deal, and they still have a place to stay when they go back. Usually, the property is rented out, but my husband's younger brother fell on hard times, and we offered to let them temporarily stay at the property rent-free so they could save up. They've been there for the past 2 years. Whenever we've gone back to visit, usually once a year for 2 weeks, I've had to specifically request that they temporarily vacate the primary bedroom. They hemmed and hawed the first time until my husband, 38 male, reminded them that we were doing them a favor. This year, we are not going back, but my parents are. I gave them a half-year heads up on the dates my parents were going, and all seemed fine. Last week, I got a call from my parents saying they were staying in a hotel. Apparently, they arrived, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law said they were hosting friends, and the only space available was the home office with a pull-out couch. My parents are in their 70s and did not want to fight them after a long flight, and also did not want to antagonize my relationship with my in-laws, so they decided to move to a hotel. I was furious. Typing this, I am still furious. I told my husband that he should be the one to handle this because no one would like the way I handle it. My husband basically told his brother that he was done and needed to move out immediately. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law texted me and left me voice notes calling me a bunch of names. My in-laws have called me, begging me to reconsider and to give them grace. Frankly, I don't really care what happens to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law anymore. I haven't responded to any messages and am just letting my husband handle it. ScalingStories Corner. Nah, that's crazy. Not only are you not apologizing for being so stupid that you're hosting your friends when your sister-in-law's parents are coming to visit, which you got the dates for well ahead in advance, but just how disgusting of a behavior is this? You can easily tell your friends that you can't host them because of prior arrangements, and you can pay for them to be in a hotel, like the same amount of money that OP's parents are being forced to spend on a hotel because they obviously can't be sleeping on the pull-out couch. And why on God's green earth are the parents even being offered the pull-out couch as an option? The brother-in-law and sister-in-law needed to vacate the bedroom, and they're the ones that need to be on that pull-out couch and give the room to OP's parents. But the fact that they didn't even do that and only offer the couch tells me that they don't give a rat's ass about OP's parents. Like, such disrespect is crazy. And then you're calling and insulting OP while getting mommy and daddy to call OP to beg her to give you grace? Like, no, they've had it good for too long. No rent for 2 years. Imagine that. And you ruined all that for what? Like, it's stupidity. It just has to be. And you know what they say? They say, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And in this case, they chomped so freaking hard on that hand. So it's time for them to figure out their own living arrangements like the fully grown-up adults they are. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "Not the jerk. How dare they host friends when they knew that your parents were coming and that you, the owners of the house, expected your parents to be accommodated. Your husband was right to tell them to move out. They deserve no grace." Commenter 2 says, "Brother-in-law thinks it's his property now. I bet he hasn't saved a dime either." Commenter 3 says, Not the jerk, but you created this monster by granting 2 years of free rent. Time for them to go, but anticipate a major fight here. OP says, you're absolutely right that I am partially at fault for creating this situation. I honestly had an inkling that this might be a problem before they moved in, and I had that feeling again with my sister-in-law's unwillingness to let us use the primary bedroom. Unfortunately, though I was raised in the States, culturally, I wanted to consider the feelings of my in-laws and help out family. Commenter 4 says, not the jerk. I do like the vibe between you and your husband. I will go through them if I talk to them. Your husband understands the consequences of said action and told them to get out now. Then, no one loses any blood. Your in-laws then contact you, begging for mercy. Tell them to go to your husband, as he is in charge of this matter. Obviously, he is now in a Liam Neeson moment and is trying to keep everyone safe and the blood at the lowest level. He is doing a great job. Thank him with a kiss. I don't think he's a pushover, as she didn't call him first. OP says, I think the vibe between my husband and me is also part of the reason why I'm second-guessing myself here. I know I'm perceived by his family as a tiger wife and that my husband is afraid of his wife. Usually, it amuses me, but I know I can be demanding, so I felt this weird internal tension with this situation. Update 1 month later. Brief update. My husband ended up handling the situation and had to take time off to travel back, which he was not pleased about. We had decided it was prudent for us to pay for a few months of alternative housing for them as a way to cover all our bases. I'm so glad we did. I had, in a fit of temper, jokingly said to my husband that they were going to tell us they couldn't move out because they're pregnant. And, lo and behold, when my brother-in-law used that excuse, apparently it just set my husband off. This is a man who's never raised his voice to me above an excited ramble. I think the rage he went into genuinely scared his family. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law are now situated in the alternative housing. My in-laws called my parents to apologize. And, overall, the whole atmosphere is tense, but at least my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are no longer living at my house, and we can have peace of mind there. All in all, through this experience, I feel incredible love and pride in having married my husband. I married this straight-off-the-boat dude based on his principles, integrity, and kindness, and, time again, he showed me why I have zero regrets over it. Scaling Stories Corner. So, one thing I don't really understand here is why OP and her husband had to cover a couple of months for alternative housing for her brother and sister-in-law, because they were staying at her property for over 2 years rent-free, and surely that is enough time to have saved up money to be able to afford rent elsewhere on your own. But, I mean, good for her that they're out of the property now for good, because they don't deserve the treatment that they were getting before, and they were clearly so ungrateful. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, the pregnancy excuse being real after she joked about it is one of the most unhinged details in recent Am I the Jerk history, and the fact that that was what finally set him off makes complete sense. You can handle a lot of things. Finding out you predicted the manipulation tactic and they used it anyway is a different category of infuriating entirely. OP says, I couldn't believe it when he told me. We both laughed about it afterwards, but it was half in disbelief and half in an unimaginative C-drama plot. Commenter 2 says, why are they pregnant if they can't afford rent? They sound extremely irresponsible. I would not let them back in that house. Enough is enough. Commenter 3 says, they're likely not, but if you're expecting and then lose the baby, you bank on your family not evicting you post-miscarriage, and then they get over it. You're kicking the can down the line until they give up. Commenter 4 says, it goes without saying that your brother-in-law and his wife should be ashamed of themselves, but your husband's parents should be ashamed too. First, for the piss-poor way that they raised your brother-in-law, and second, for daring to ask you to show grace toward these two freeloaders when they themselves showed no grace to your aging parents. OP says, I understand this perspective, and to some degree, I agree. However, I do also have a lot of empathy for my in-laws. When they had my husband, they were young, poor, and didn't have much of a hand in his upbringing and education. In many ways, it's a miracle my husband turned out the way he did. They had my brother-in-law much later, and the country as a whole was a rising tide rising all ships. My brother-in-law grew up in a completely different environment from my husband's, with modern conveniences and parents that had disposable income. I think, in many ways, My in-laws overcompensated by giving my brother-in-law all the things they were never able to give my husband. Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.